It's always a party at Patchworks. Let's get this party started. Woot woot. Hi everyone, this is Julie from Patchworks, and I am so excited that you're joining us for another Must Sew TV night here at Patchworks. Tonight we're talking all about Aurifil Color Builders and Block Bonanza and new fabrics and all sorts of really amazing things. And I'm so happy that you're joining us on this warm summer evening. I can finally say that, warm summer evening, to be able to enjoy some quilty fun. So you may see behind us, we have this really gorgeous quilt. So this is continued to be on loan from one of our dear quilty friends, Mary Seeland. This is her Block Bonanza that she has done, and she did this in some vintage Three Sisters florals here. So we'll be hopping to Block Bonanza a little bit later tonight. But what we're going to do is we are going to get started by talking about Aurifil Color Builders. So tonight we have Tammy at the keyboards and Frank behind the computer, or behind the cameras there. So hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions that you have. Make sure to like and share if you're watching and you love what you like. Also, make sure you can tune into our YouTube channel to be able to recap all of the must-see TV content. And you can just binge watch us over the weekend because that could be a lot of fun. All right, so let us look at our color builders of the month. So for our color builders, for those of you who are unfamiliar with color builders, Aurifil has a really exciting thread box that they come out with every single month. And this is the third year that we're participating in their color builders. And this year it is the 50 weight variegated threads. They have 1 solid and 3 variegateds. And let me just pop up here a picture for you for what those threads look like today. Ooh, you know, I finally got smart and took the picture of the thread because you'd be able to see it better than with the cellophane. Ha! So you have the solid here that is the 2715. The one in the center, which is the light variegated, is 3770. And then on the right side, you have the 4655. So those are gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And the project that it's paired with is a Applique Flower pattern that Aurifil provides the pattern for. It is a fusible applique, and templates are available in both the reverse as well as the non-reverse if you are going to be doing hand and adding your seam allowance in there. So the passion flower, let's just take a look at what the inspiration is. Oh, look at that beautiful flower. I just love it. So this is an endangered flower, I believe, from Central America. It's really gorgeous. I didn't research all of the fun facts about it just because I was so in love with the beautiful flower. Now, what I do every month for those people who are club members, or if you just love this and you wanted to hop in and end up getting this particular month, you could get this block. You could get the box, the pattern, and the fabric that we're sharing with you. And Kate Brennan, who works with Aurifil, created this beautiful, this was her version of the finished flower here. Okay, so you have she used linen Essex for her background, and then she put in some greens, and then she had those beautiful colors in the center there for her flower. And if we look up close, you can see how she used some very interesting stitching to embellish those pieces. So what I wanted to share with you today is what our fabric pick was, and then we're going to build the flower. So for our fabric, what I just wanted to share with you is that for these petals Aurifil had recommended a light gray. What I decided to do is I wanted to use this very interesting white with a light blue because we're also going to be using it here, and I thought it'd be really interesting. I don't know, I just thought it'd be cool. This is our medium blue here. Then we have our light blue, our medium blue. We have a gold that we use for our stamens. We have a light green, a medium green, a dark green, and a really dark green. I think they actually call it darker green, not a really dark green. I think that's pretty funny to call it a really dark green. So this here, this looks near black, and in Hoffman Fabrics 1895, so those are those modeled batiks, and that's what we use a lot of times for these here. This is a near black that they have released, and it is called emerald. Okay, so there is typically in the 1895s there had been the raven, which was the double black, the black, which was a blue black, and then they decided to come out with a variety of others. So there's a purple black, a green black, and a brown black, and I chose the emerald for our really dark green. So Tammy did a fabulous job, and what she did with our pattern here is that she went ahead and she, oops, I don't want to lose all my, oh no. Okay, so she had it all really nice and organized, and I just, oh my gosh, look at some of these tiny pieces. That's insane. I won't lose the teeny tiny pieces. Okay. Whew. Oh my goodness. All right, so she went ahead and she did this. So you can see here that as she traced them, she made sure to number them. Now, one of the things to keep in mind while you're tracing them, you want to make sure to not only put the number of what unit it is, but also what fabric you're attaching it to, okay? However, when you cut it out, you want to make sure that the number is in there. So if we look, oh, this is going to be super, super tiny, okay? So you might not be able to read, oh, you can, oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, you can see that's 30. So we no longer need to know what color this is, right? We just want to know that it's green, or that it's number 30 for that position, okay? Now the other thing which was pretty interesting is as we were cutting pieces out, I saw that Aurifil had a fabric color eye, and nowhere in their fabric chart did they have an eye. So I just decided that based on where I thought the position of it would be, so the position eye is under here and here, I thought it would go really well with the light green. So as it's kind of a shadow, it's part of the leaf texture. So I thought that's what we would do there. All right, so and on your written instructions I have, if you're a club member, I have included those modifications. So we have here a full layout sheet that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to pull my tracing box forward. And let's see, do I have it here? My 1980s tracing box that I love because it just stays forever. So you can see here that I have nice layout sheet. I'm going to use my applique pressing sheet on top for building my block. So this block finishes to 12 by 12, okay? You could either put it into the quilt, or you could just make a little pillow with it, make a wall hanging, many different options. For these petals underneath, which are our first piece, let me pull up the sheet here. So the original piece, because we're going to build this again, right? So for the original pattern, Kate has us cut out all these petals to put them underneath, to then put something on top of it. So that's all right and all, but I thought, you know what? Let's just trace this and provide you with the reversed shape so you can do the same. Doesn't that sound like a good idea? Huh. So I have hand drawn here a reverse, okay, which is what we traced and cut here. If you prefer to cut out all the individual petals, you can, but I mean, come on, this is June, right? And it's hot and it's summer and we just want to get our flower done. So I thought let's make an easy shortcut, because I'm all about easy shortcuts as long as they can achieve excellent results. So what we're going to do, and Pat asked a question here. She said, Julie, how do I get just this 1 month? This flower is so special to me. And thank you so much, Pat, for asking. I'm so happy you asked. So the pattern comes free with this gorgeous thread box. So you can come in, and I believe the single month price on this is $44.99, I think. And you can come in, get this, you'll get the fabric pack and the pattern to go with it. And so it's a really great value. And I mean, 3 beautiful spools of thread. Okay, so Pat, it's no more than $44.99 a month. Let me know. And so thank you for the question. So what I did here while we were talking is I peeled off the backing here and I laid it on my applique pressing sheet. And you can see that I used this here, okay? The next piece I'm going to do is I'm going to take 9B, because we're going to build this in order. Okay. So 9B, and if you have problems peeling it, sometimes you go like that. Very technical going like that. And we're going to lay it on top. Okay. Beautiful. And then we're going to lay over, so it's a little hard to see. We're going to have our fringe in here. So this is where it was gray, but I thought this would be really interesting here. Oh, that's all right. So Tammy's in the back saying, oh, I should have started them. So see, this way I can share with you how you would start them. So we can layer here. If you had wanted to, you could cut out the back of this one here, but I don't think that the shading is a problem. And then it is, as we build these layers, it is challenging to see the placement sheet. So the placement sheet is more helpful for those first parts, and then you get to use just your artistic license for kind of making this your own. Okay, so you can see here how this kind of looks like an artistic representation of the flower, okay? And I really like how I did that, because in nature, you know, you can see all the different shadings. If you prefer to use a more solid color, you of course could swap something out. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to lay in the different components here. So we are going to have this little 11C here, which is a nice, oh, I need another dot, so I'm going to have my green first, my 13, and you could place it off center. And just design it however you desire. So I really love playing with this because it's like fabric stickers. But you can see here how this can be really, really thick, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers here, plus all of the adhesives. So that's really 10 layers when you're working in the center here. So remember, when you're stitching on these, it is really helpful to use those Teflon nonstick needles. Those can be really, really helpful as you are working. Okay, so I should have probably figured out exactly what part was which before I decided to start playing with this, but we'll have fun. And make sure you have those really nice precise scissors. So for something like this, we actually did use our very small Elan embroidery scissors, which have that micro serrated edge. We also carry all of the Karen K. Buckley scissors, which are great for really getting in there and being able to do some precision cutting. All right, so Tammy, I am going to have you come over here to start the other ones for me, please. Okay, so thank you. Just because all of a sudden I see we have lots of other ones. If you can do the yellow, maybe, I don't know, or no, this one next.
This one?
Yep. Okay, now if he comes, so if he would for some reason, look at him, he's so cool. So we're able to kind of layer this on. So I'm going to leave him loose because I'm going to press some stuff behind him. Lots of fun. Okay, so then we have this guy here. So pretty. I love flowers. I've been having lots of fun this spring planting some gorgeous things. We'll see what all comes up. If you've stopped in the shop at all, you might have seen some of the stuff. Okay, so where does this go? This is 16. 16 here, it goes right here. All right. See, so this is where your artistic vision comes into play. Now, I would lay him behind, so we're still keeping this up or picking this up, and that's what I really love about this Steam-a Seam Light, is that it has this tacky property so that you can play around with this. Now, some tweezers might also be helpful. I think the pattern did recommend tweezers. I can see how tweezers could be helpful here. And this is 17. So we're just going to have some vision here of, and what do we have there?
This is 18.
18. Oh, 18 just kind of goes like here. All right, well, huh. And then this guy kind of wraps around there.
This is 15.
15 comes.
And I think that's the only one.
Oh, 15. 15 comes, there's a little knobby guy right here. See, it really added interesting dimension. Very technical botanist information that you get here from the Patented Works. Okay, so you can play around with that. And let me just lift this up here so that you can see what we built. Okay, so you can play around, oops, let me get it back in screen here. So you can play around with how these go into play and position them how you'd like. So the pattern recommends that you build your flower and you build your leaves separately, okay? And then you would lay them together. It could be hard, especially with stems like this, for getting it all to detach from your applique pressing sheet together. So I can see you building this leaf, this unit, and this, and then laying it all on your base fabric. So this is all I'm going to share with you today for that. But when you lift it up, ready to go. So the applique pressing sheet is awesome. A parchment paper, you know, like the stuff that you use to help your cooking be non-stick, that also can be really helpful for helping keeping these intact. And so you have this nice little fabric sticker that moves very simply. And you can see when you're building a compound unit like this that has all billion little pieces, it can be easier when you're working with something like that. So I hope that was helpful as you're working on your applique units. Are there any questions? Okay, so Tammy's not seeing any questions right now. Let us know if you have any. And as I said, for the club members, I've written the modifications on our pattern and given you the bonus shape of being able to cut the petals out. Isn't that a novel idea? I think it was a novel idea. So I hope you find that helpful. Now, staying on the Aurifil theme, one of our club members, Jackie, has been doing really extraordinary things with our blocks. And what she did last month is that she played with a whole different variety of different applications for marking and a bunch of things, brought us samples and wrote up a really great synopsis of her experience with different materials. So we're going to look at the versions that she made of the water lily and talk through some technique. So thank you again, Jackie, for offering us these amazing samples. And I'm so excited to be presenting them to everyone else here tonight. So let's make sure here I can get this. So she presented this nice sheet. So if you are an official club member, you'll be getting this in your pack this month. So thank you again for typing that up. And Frank, let's look overhead. So let me see if I can get this centered here. So this is the gorgeous water lily unit. So this was a double block. Okay, so this month our passion flower was a single block, and we have a combination of the 12 by 24s and the 12 by 12s for finished blocks. So the water lily, she's been using a combination of different fabrics. So in this one she did grunge, and the explanation on this description was using so this was the first one she made for the veins, and she said using a fine point Sharpie marker, she drew vein lines on Ultra Salvi by Silky. She used a straight stitch 1.5 millimeter stitch length for her thread painting here, sewing a continuous line. Each line was gone over twice to keep the sewing continuous, and she pulled off as much stabilizer as possible and used water to remove the rest. So the Ultra Salvi is something that some machine embroiderists use, and it's not a product that we carry, but I believe a lot of the other stores around us do carry them that do a lot with machine embroidery. So you can see, and for this particular one, she used a dark background. She used grunge for her fabrics. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous piecing here. And then she removed her stabilizer. So everything that she did use stabilizer on the back side. But she marked her veins on top and then stitched and then took away. All right. The second one that she did, so she used batiks and grunge. And for the second lily veins, she used a straight fine point Sharpie marker, drew the vein lines on heat away. Used a straight stitch 1.5 millimeter stitch length, sewing a continuous line. So the exact same stitching. Each line was gone over twice to keep the sewing continuous. She removed by pulling away as much as possible, heated the stabilizer, and removed the rest, using tweezers to remove the last. Heat caused some of the black lines to come through on the fabric, giving it, and actually I think it's quite an interesting effect on this pattern. So now if this was a 1930s quilt that she was doing this to with really pastel fabrics and things like that, she might have been devastated. But given that this is an art piece with some stitching, this really is, I think, a very interesting look, even though this was not an intended result, because you not only have the thread painting, but you also have additional painting happening. Okay? Gorgeous. But wait, there's more. Okay, so for the third lily, which is made entirely of the batiks on a grunge background, using a fine point Sharpie marker, drew the vein lines on Avalon lightweight, used a straight stitch 1.5 stitch length, sewing a continuous line. Each line was gone over twice, keeping it continuous. She removed as much as a stabilizer as possible before using water to remove the rest. So you can see there's still a little bit of the marking that came through, but really loving how this looks as well. For the fourth lily veins, used a fine point Sharpie pen to draw veins on Sulky Salvie, used a straight stitch, sewing a continuous line, going over each line twice. Removed as much stabilizer as possible before using water to remove the rest. Okay, so there seems to be no residue of the marking utensil at all. And then for the fifth, and this was sewn on a solid black background, and this one is grunge as well. Using a pencil, drew the lines on Heat Away, used a straight stitch, 1.5 millimeter stitch length, sewing a continuous line. Each line was sewn over twice. Removed stabilizer by heating with an iron and then by using a tweezer. Was able to remove all the stabilizer. The pencil lines did not appear at all on the lily pad. So this was Jackie's favorite line version, I believe, and you can see there is absolutely no residue as all left over. But I just want to quick for comparison bring back this one here and just share how beautiful both of these are, and they're just different looks. Okay, now I also want you to embrace anytime you're trying something new and potentially you get an unexpected result, to look at how it fits into the final project. And I, as I said, actually think, given the nature of what this plant is, that this is very, very, very interesting. And I love every single one of these lilies. So thank you, thank you, thank you again, Jackie, for sharing this with us. If any of you have amazing tips and tricks that you would like to share with us, let me know, and we can talk about it and see if it makes sense to present as I did this one. So that is what we have this month for our Aurifil Color Builders. Any questions on anything that I've shared so far? Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we are going to do a 180 and go from talking about art quilting with thread painting and applique to talk about the very, very precise piecing of the Block Bonanza 6-inch sampler blocks. So Tammy was super helpful and went ahead and made us some blocks that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some fabric placement, and then to follow up on, I believe it was last week's email that, or not last week's email, last week video, Karen had asked me to show you how to what hand piecing a half square triangle would look like. So we're going to talk about that. So I'm going to grab Tammy's binder here. So Block Bonanza, that is this pattern here that we have in the store. It is a gorgeous 49 block sampler, I believe. Yes, 49, 7 by 7 is 49, I think. I don't know. It's been a long day. And it finishes 70 by 70. Or you could choose to make it smaller by making less blocks, or make it bigger by making more blocks. Now, I see behind me, I hung Mary's quilt sideways. I've been hanging it vertically where you can see the raindrops from the alternating block, and so you get a different illusion by this modified log cabin block and seeing the horizontal pieced blocks. And I think that that's just really interesting to be able to see how you can take the same setting and switch it ever so slightly to make your own unique modification. If it were a square quilt though, you really don't know which way it would be. Okay, so let me look here and see what gorgeous blocks that we have from Tammy to share. So we're going to be talking about blocks 13, 14, 15, and 16 today. Ooh, ah. So Tammy is using the Frankie, right? Frankie, that's the name of the fabric line, by Basic Gray. And I just love here how she fussy cut this little flower for the center of this block. So you have center square, you have half square triangles on the outside, but you are using a total of 5 different fabrics, but you can see that the 4 fabrics here, so you have flying geese units. You need to pay attention with your layout here that you have the points on the right side so that it will line up to your half square triangle. And then it's going to continue over here. So it looks like a little paw, right? One little bear paw. But it's actually flying geese and half square triangles. So there's nothing super scary about how this goes together. And then you put it together as a 9 patch. So super exciting here. And just needing to pay attention to how that fabric is organized. Whew. So Tammy, how long did it take to keep the fabric organized when you're doing that?
It's not too bad as long as you do them one block at a time.
So Tammy let me know that it really doesn't take that long. You just do one block at a time. So maybe cut one block at a time. You could. So Tammy, do you ever cut ahead? So cut 4 blocks and then sew 4 blocks. So Tammy cuts 1 block, sews 1 block. Cuts 1 block, sews 1 block. Okay, so she starched everything ahead of time, which I love when we're working with really small pieces, because if you're working with really small pieces and you want to use the starch, you absolutely want to starch the fabric before you cut it, because if you're first applying starch after you cut these little pieces, they're going to shrink up and then you're going to curse and be mad. And I don't want you to be mad. So this one here, this is block 14, and this is a little pinwheel in the center. You have some half square triangles on the side here, and then just some guys here. So, and if we look at it up close, you might say, oh my goodness, what happened? Why are these points not to the end, Julie? In the book, it shows that the points go all the way to the end. Well, that's because you still have the seam allowance in here. So we want to make sure that we don't lose our points. So the proper way for this block to be is exactly as it is shown, so that you have those seam allowances all the way around. So just 2 fabrics in that particular one. The other question that I have for Tammy here, so in each of these patterns, they have, so in the whole block, or in the whole quilt, they've numbered fabrics. Have you chosen unique fabrics for every block, or did you go and color map all of the fabrics and you're trying to cut per?
I'm following it.
Okay, so what I asked Tammy is she, so here they have so many different fabrics. Oops, let's go back down here. So Frank switched that here. So let's look here. Great. Perfect. So we have, you can fabric map where, so on this version here, fabric map 1 through 30. And then you could just use this to go along. Instead, what Tammy did is she got a great big fat quarter tower of a fabric line that she loved. And then as she's going through, if she sees that if a block has 2 fabrics, she chooses 2 pieces of fabric, and then so on and so forth. The thing about it is that if you're working with a coordinated stack of fabrics like that, you will have a nice balance if you're working with the same amount of fabric, because you can only get so many blocks out of each one. So in theory, when you're making a large sampler like that, you still should end up with a very balanced quilt, because you can't overuse a fabric, if that made sense. Okay, so now let's talk about block 15. And Tammy is giggling over there. She was so kind, she made us 2 blocks, okay? So this is really, really awesome. So this is the final version of Block 15 that she had for us. So you can see that there's a star that emerges here. So actually this center block, these are quarter square triangles. And then here you have a quarter square triangle with a half square triangle. So it's kind of tucked, it's kind of tucked in between here, and it looks like this is woven in, which is really cool. There are these half square triangles on the end. And then this woven look goes all the way around. So you can see that it looks woven the whole way. Okay, super cool. I'm going to show you now a second block, same exact pattern, different fabric choice. So it was her first attempt, and you can see here, this block here looks like a pinwheel, okay? It's really cool. It just looks like a different pattern, okay? So beautiful block, beautiful piecing. This would have been completely appropriate to put in a sampler block, and if she ends up needing an extra block, I would still encourage her to use it. It doesn't, however, look as the pattern looked, which is closer to this, okay? So you can see how this is your background and this star pops up. So here it looks more like this is the pinwheel, this is the star of the show, okay? So it's just interesting as when you're picking out fabrics that sometimes you might make a block, especially when you're choosing your own adventure and not going with a specific kit or mapping fabric out according to a color layout. Embrace surprises, and you can decide if you want to use the surprise or if you want to recreate it and save the surprise for a different project. Gorgeous blocks. So that was block 15. And then we have one more block that Tammy painstakingly made for us. And this block here, ooh, all of the half square triangles. Now this I think is super cool because it looks like butterflies here, just flying away, flip, 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 flip. And I love this really geometric print here, which gives a very wild look. So she used black grunge and yellow grunge here for the highlight, and then the single piece of fabric as her background to have these triangles pop out. So really, really nice. And this is a 4 grid here, okay? So this is 6-inch finished, which means half would be 3 inches, which means these are 1.5 inch finished half square triangles. So now what I thought I would do is I'm going to show you how to hand piece a half square triangle. We talked about in our last week's program, we talked about hand piecing squares together. So if that was interesting to you, then I would encourage you to watch last week's program to see our whole talk about it. What we're going to do now is we're going to like leapfrog right into that, or hop right into that discussion, assuming that you have the base knowledge of what we talked about last week. And then the other thing is we have a super exciting other addition to the store that we restocked some stuff that while I'm showing you this, Frank is going to run and get us something so I can show you, which is super exciting. The triangle paper that we got in. But can you show me overhead first? So what we're going to do right now is we are going to talk about making the hand piecing half square triangles, okay? So the first thing that we want to talk about is with your hand piecing is precision piecing, precision, which means you don't cut down afterwards, right? Because you don't want to cut down your blocks like you might with some machine piecing, because if you cut it down, well, then you might be taking out your tie-offs, and that would be a problem. With your machine piecing, you come in much tighter, and so you don't really risk things coming apart when you trim it down a little bit. and it is quite common these days that you do make your blocks bigger and trim them down. So when we do this, we need to remember that your for your cutting, you add 7/8 of an inch. I know, I promised no math. I never promised no math. Quilting is math. We learn lots. So to finished size, okay? So, and that is 0.875. So if we're starting with 1.5 inches, like we were talking about, we would add 875, 753, carry the 1, so that's 2 3/8. 2 3/8, okay? 2 3/8 is the size of square that you would want to start with, okay? So that might be different than what the cutting instructions in the pattern say. So if your pattern is a precision pieced pattern instruction, so pretty much any patterns that were 10 years or older, you weren't cutting anything down. But a lot of the modern patterns want to provide you with that wiggle room so you can have those perfect half square triangles. So I just wanted to address that if you're following a pattern, how you might have to modify your cutting prior to starting. Okay, so what I did is I just went ahead and cut, after I starched my fabric, I cut 2 3/8 inch squares right away. Then I cut it in half. Okay, because, so if you're machine piecing, we use our quick quarter ruler, we draw our lines, we sew our lines, we cut it apart, press it open, and then if necessary, trim down to the size. But if we are hand piecing, we are not trimming down, right? So we want it exact. And we are going to line things up. So we're going to be sewing right here. Now, one of the things that I shared last week was that I really recommend that you mark your lines. So you can use your ruler, you can use a quick quarter ruler to mark your sewing line with pencil. Now I would recommend you actually marking all 3 sides here, because even though we're only sewing 1 seam tonight, you are going to be sewing squares together in the long run, right? So here I have them marked. You probably would be marking all of your pieces, right? Because you're going to be eventually sewing your sides to other pieces, okay? So I didn't want to make you watch me thread a needle, and I knotted it. I used 40 weight Aurifil thread, which is a little bit stronger. If I had wanted to, I could pin my pieces together here. With it being so little, I'm not going to pin it. I'm going to use care to not stretch it as I'm working with it. I'm going to start sewing. So when I start sewing, I'm going to come in off the edge. Okay. Then I'm going to back stitch to go all the way to the end, because we don't want it to fall apart when I'm pressing it open. So kind of a little back stitch there, okay? And then I'm going to do a tight running stitch. So when I'm doing my running stitch, I'm just putting my needle in and out. Now this particular time, I chose a really short needle, which isn't conducive for pulling through a lot of stitches. That's all right. This is a really short seam, so it won't torture you too much for watching me piece a seam. Nice small stitches. Make sure to pull, but make sure to give it a nice little tug so that you're not gathering your fabric, because if you gather your fabric, well, your block's not going to be the right size, right? As I said, we pre-starched our fabric because I like pre-starching. We are working on the bias, so you want to be careful to not stretch this seam as you're working it. You're definitely working it a little bit harder than if you were pushing it through a machine. Plus, often when we're working with half square triangle on a machine, we are sewing it together in units. You're not using the exposed edge. And as we get to this outside line or outside edge, we are once again going to stitch all the way to the end and come back. Okay, all the way to the end here. And then I'm just going to do a little tie-off stitch. Little tiny stitch here. And then I'm going to run my needle through the loop once, twice, pull it tight, cut it off, dun, dun, dun. Open it up. Now you would not press this open because you want to make sure that you have stability. So if it were machine pieced, I always cut them open, but here I would just press it to a side. You could press it to the dark side, wherever it wants to go. You could use a little steam there, not steam, use a little heat, make it go where it needs to go, cut off your things, but voila, easy peasy. So this is still a pretty reasonable size that is easy for machine piecing. However, if you are making tiny, tiny pieces like we do for some of these, sometimes it might be easier to simply hand piece a unit rather than really be aggravated with trying to fit these tiny, tiny pieces through your machine. And you can see this really didn't take long at all. So I hope you enjoyed that little lesson. And we talk about it a lot, and we had lost our original source for our triangle paper because she had retired. And I just wanted to share with you that we picked up some really great Primitive Gatherings half square triangle paper. Lisa up from Primitive Gatherings does a great job. So this is printed on a thicker paper than the previous paper that we had, but it's still really nice. And so we have a variety of different things, including these two variety packs. So the small variety packs has smaller from 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and 1 1/4 inch to the large variety pack, so which includes 1 1/2, 1 3/4, 2 and 2 1/2. And you might say, oh my goodness, that's really not large. Well, for Lisa Bonjean, 1 1/2 and up is large. So definitely if you're working with 1 1/2 and down, or 1/2 inch to 1 1/4 inch, the triangle paper can be really helpful. And let's just open this up so that you can see what triangle paper is if you've never ever seen it. So Frank, let's look overhead. So for this paper here, it is really set for when you are sewing combinations of fabric. Okay, so you would put 2 fabrics together, right sides together, and then you would stitch on, you'd follow the arrows to stitch, and it's really interesting how you would stitch. Then you cut on the dotted lines, or on the solid lines here, and take your papers off after you cut them apart. Okay, so this is a little bit thicker of paper. It's a thin copy paper here, so it's going to be nice that it's going to stay together. And then you can see that the tiny tinies look like this, and she actually has her tiny tinies set up in rows here, so because she knows you're probably not making a billion of them. So it depends on how you wanted to work it. If you wanted to cut a strip, you just can make 10. So a very nice, and then these are the super tinies. So with the super tinies for the half, look at that tiny, tiny little 1/2 inch triangle there. So you get 14 from a strip or 84 from a single sheet here. Okay. And some of the blocks take the small ones that Tammy said. So That is our triangle paper. So they are $10 a pack, and it'd be good to have some on hand. And something that's really important, because you might say, you know what, Julie, this is just paper. Let's just put on the copy machine. And one thing I want to alert you to that she has here is that reproduction of any kind will result in inaccurate triangles, because the copy machine actually changes it ever so slightly, okay? So that is why when you're using a tool like this, it is important to make sure it is properly sized so that you have the proper size unit at the end of the day. And Tammy has a question for me, and this goes back to our hand piecing. So do you want to pop that question up on the screen, Tammy? So Deb wants to know, is it still a 1/4 inch when hand sewing? So there may be rules in some methods of some things. However, the hand stitching I'm familiar with is that yes, you still use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that is why we would still use the same math that we would need for precision piecing, which would be adding, for Hasker triangles, adding 7/8 of an inch to our finished size for the square that we're going to be cutting, and then we would draw our 1/4 inch lines in order to come up with the right size for sewing. So that was an excellent question. There are sometimes when if you ever have done paper piecing, especially really, really tiny paper piecing things, where you use a smaller seam allowance. So there might be rules if you're making something super tiny that you choose to do something different from the norm. However, in general, hand sewing would have the same seam allowance that machine piecing would have. Thank you for that question. Any other questions to anything that I've been showing you so far tonight? So that is the technique portion of our presentation tonight. And since I have you on tonight, I just wanted to show you a few of the new things. Does anybody want to see anything new? Yay! See something new? All right, so just a reminder, this is, if you're watching this live, this is Thursday, June 30th. We are open tomorrow, July 1st. We are closed on Saturday, July 2nd, so that all of the quilty staff can enjoy a holiday weekend with family and friends. And we are closed as regular on the 3rd and the 4th, back open on the 5th, regular business hours. So just wanted to share that with you in case if you did not pick that up from any other information. And if you are celebrating, you still have time to make something. So come on in tomorrow. I have a really cool Celebrate the Seasons July banner. So Frank, let's look overhead at this. So this Let Freedom Ring. So how this is, it's 43 by 63, and it's printed with the 24-inch repeat panel here. And then what Hoffman did is that they printed coordinating yardage on this side. So you could use that as a little border in a back just to finish it up. And if you're making a door banner, you just can sew right sides together, turn it inside, right side out, and then sew it up and pin it to a door. So this is a really fun watermelon flag. And this is the sizing here, just really nice, summery vibe. So we still have a couple of those in stock, as well as some super cool red, white, and blue strip sets for making some fun stuff. All right, we just finished up the shop hop. We still have all of the fabrics in stock. I was so afraid we were going to be running out of them, and we didn't. So I'm excited for those of you still working on projects or even wanting just to make fun things. So like I'm thinking about Door County right now, and I know it's not quite cherry season yet, But oh my goodness, this is super cool. I remember growing up, my mom had this really cool coin purse that she got from Door County that was this color. It was blue background with these cool red cherries, and so this piece of fabric really reminds me of that. And I think that's really fun. We have been getting in all of the gnomes, all of them. So we have gnome fabric now, and so we've been trying to put a collection together that's just gnomes. And even if you went to our website and just typed in gnomes, you're going to see fabric, you're going to see fun little ditty things. We're getting a whole bunch of more really cool things, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to show you some of the fun fabrics that have come in, and then I have a couple other bonus things that I'm going to be bringing to show you. So, Frank, let's look overhead. So a few of the pieces from Timeless. I'm not showing the coordinates to you. So we have what they're calling the stacked gnomes, and then the tossed gnomes, and so they call them tossed when they're every which way. From Timeless, we got back in stock the garden gnomes. From Henry Glass, we got in the brand new line, which is the Timber Gnomies Tree Farm. So this is kind of a continuation from Shelley Kaminsky from her tree gnomes, or from her timber farms last year. Timber Gnomies from last year, so it's a kind of a continuation there. Then we have some really cool things here. Can you help me bring some stuff over? Thank you. So we have some wine tumblers because, you know, it's time to be out there drinking the margaritas and drinking our wine coolers or our sparkling, or our claws, right? The white claws, is that a thing? It's a thing for some people. So if you're drinking that, do you like that? The claw. So Frank is laughing at me. So we have these really cool mugs here. These are so exciting. They just came in. So they are potentially holiday themed. So one of them is called Chillin' with My Gnomies. If you look super close, they're holding the little string of lights. But you know, I like the little sparkly twinkly lights all of the time. So they could just be like holding twinkly lights that are like hanging from your patio. And then here, Gnome, Sweet Gnome is really awesome. So this has that really nice inside. So Frank, let's look overhead. So it has that polar camel. And this is, you know, really nice. I call it the sippy cup for adults, right? So it doesn't have, you know, if you tip it over, it would spill. But a very nice closure here, nice insulation, and Gnome, Sweet Gnome, dishwasher safe. And then this one here, Chillin' with My Gnomies. So we have a limited number of them in stock. We are able to get more at this point. Just got them in, and I know we've already sold some today, which is super exciting. And then we have some ceramic mugs that just came in, and these are really nice. Let me just, you can hear, really nice ceramic mug. So this one has green inside, and it's a nice weighted mug. You know, sometimes you get these decorative mugs and they don't have that weight to it. And I like a really nice heavy mug. So this is a gnome here with the little whiskers, and this is green, matches the inside here. And this is that very trendy kind of unfinished pottery look on the bottom. Nice handle. $8.99 for the ceramic mugs. And then we have two in purple. So the purple ones, oh, really awesome. So we have kind of the scraggly beard here. And this is some purple stripes. So the color of his hat matches the inside of the mug. And these are polka dots. Look at that. It's just adorbs. Polka dots and that. So $8.99 for each of these. You could get one. You could get two of each. So you have a set of 6 so that you can serve everyone. Or you could, you know, get 7 so you have a different one for each day of the week. You just never know. All right. So, and someone came in today and she said, well, I need one for my coffee in the morning and one for my wine at night. You know? I think that's an excellent plan. Or maybe you bring one of these to work and just tell everybody it's coffee. Nobody's going to know. Who's going to know? Nobody's going to know. All right. So other things that have come in, I promise I won't keep you too long tonight. We do have Camille's debut line, Nantucket Summer. Nantucket Summer, and this is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. It is blues, greens, and whites, crisp, 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 crisp. We have all of the pre-cuts. We have these amazing, super cute zipper findings. We are going to be sharing later in July a really fun project with you for a really fun zipper pouch. So if you were looking for the super fun zipper pouch, hint, 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 you might want to come in and snag your zipper pulls and a mini charm ahead of time so that you have what you need before they're all gone. All right. We're going to work to get these up online before the weekend so that you'd have them there. I wasn't able to do it quite today. So these are in stock, pre-cuts, yardage, and bundles. Then I have just a couple things that I wanted to share with you. So I have one new Halloween that I'm going to share with you. But also, Frank, let's just quick look overhead. We have, I just want to remind you, we have a really great novelty food section that we have snacks, and we have more snacks than this. We have tons of beer themed things because, well, Frank brews beer. So, you know, we got to keep Frank happy that we have all of the fabric that have beer things on it. And because I buy all the coffee fabric, so then I buy all the beer fabric for him. And we really don't sew things with them, but you know, it just helps me offset all the coffee fabric that I buy. All right. And then we do have some really fun produce. So we have actually right now probably more food fabric than we've ever had. This is just a handful of the stuff that we have. This is awesome for the summer. Awesome, awesome, awesome for a grilling season. But you'll want to check it out. I would say we have close to 100 food and snacks right now, at least. And we even have like whole watermelon collections. So if you're looking for watermelon fabric, now is the time. We don't always have everything, but now is the time. We also got in the brand new collection from Rachel Hauer. This is Scaredy Cat. And this is from Free Spirit. So all of those Halloween fabrics are starting to come in now. This has been a sought after line, and I just wanted to share with you that we do have it in. You'll be seeing a little bit more of it next week in our Free Spirit Club. There are 15 fabrics to this line. So we're just going to quick flip through them. And I believe, is Rachel, somehow, is she, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you any information on Rachel at the instant because I'm not certain. So here you can see, look at how you have this design, and I should know what this is called. I don't know what this element of design is called, but these are bats. So it's really cool how it's one thing, but then it's another. So it's a little bit scarier if, you know, more serious of a Halloween line. This is super cool. And I haven't checked if this is glow in the dark or not. It's not, I don't think it's specified as glow in the dark, but it almost looks like it could be. This one here, oh, this is awesome. So this is a, like, looks like a crazy quilt there. Really cool. And then we have mini ghosts with mini pumpkins. So this is a little morbid here. So this is the little skeleton, but they're dog skeletons. I've never had dog skeletons before. Some skulls and bones, which could be great for anatomy class as well. And then this piece here, this is my favorite, favorite, favorite piece. So, you know, you're just thinking, Julie, that's just herringbone, whatever. No, look, look, you got to see it. And just as a preface, like, Halloween is my favorite holiday, so And yes, Julie, this is really unique fabric. And then you have these scalloped ghosts happening. And then this interesting rib cage thing happening. And then this is Tammy's favorite piece. And this is just really cool. And these could be, I love how Rachel did this, that this actually could be fussy cut to be sewed into something. So often designers don't leave space for things to be pieced in, and so designs go all the way up to lines and things like that. So there is space to be able to fussy cut this. So really fun, really different, very hip. So you'll be seeing more of this particular fabric line in our Free Spirit Club next week, and we'll be seeing some other fun stuff. So I really would like to thank all of you for tuning in tonight and checking out our Aurifil Color Builders program, our catch up on our Block Bonanza. I know we were a little late this week or this month. Thank you so much for your flexibility and helping us be able to catch up. We are planning a full month for July for really exciting things. And we are really excited to have some fun, exciting new fabrics, lots of holiday fabrics coming in to the store. Didn't say that right. Coming into the store for your shopping pleasure. Later in the summer, as all of the fabrics are coming in, we will be inspiring you with what to do with those things. I just know some of you have been asking since like April when our holiday fabrics are coming in. So that's why I want to make sure that you have first dibs on all of those fabrics if you are chomping at the bit to start your holiday sewing. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We are here tomorrow to be able to answer your questions, see while you're shopping, and then we wish all of you a very happy holiday weekend. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Happy quilting, and we'll see you soon.